He was hooked on death. No shame in that, Geoffrey Nightingale always told himself. At this point, the body count was so high, and his appetite for murder so strong, that he'd lost track of how many lives he'd ended. One thing he did know: the more he killed, the more he wanted to kill. Profilers called it escalation. Nightingale called it addiction to the quest for pleasure. Some people did crack or meth or heroin. He killed. They made it so easy, the cops. Early on, Nightingale had learned to shift and change his M.O. He wasn't an idiot who adhered to the ritual and the pattern. Sure, he'd prefer it that way, but he took his drugs any way he could get them. If that meant switching things up to maintain his high, so what? The high was what counted. And another thing. When you'd been killing for so damn long, it got boring if you didn't add some variety, if you didn't experiment. Because where was the buzz in doing the same kill over and over? He'd never understood that. He kept ahead of investigators with false clues and by moving from city to city. Hell, they thought his kills were committed by several different guys. That cracked him up. But now winter had hit with a vengeance. He was sick of snow, and he'd decided to head south. Winter made everything harder, including murder. The city he'd chosen as his next home wasn't big, not by Philadelphia standards anyway. It didn't have a huge police force, had no substantial FBI presence. It would suit him for a while. Maybe a year, maybe 2. How many kills could he get in before they figured out the murders were connected? He was betting 5 or 6. How many before they started getting the least bit close to catching him? That would never happen. He was too smart and had been in the business too long. A pro didn't approach this stuff blindly. He didn't just pack up the car and head out. It took careful planning. It took fake IDs. It took a new persona. It took an in-depth study of the other team. From his spot in the Philadelphia coffee shop, Nightingale clicked his laptop keys and pulled up an article he'd already read several times. A piece about a woman named Elise Sandburg, who'd been made head detective of the Savannah Police Department. The article included a photo of her, taken in a cemetery that was apparently located right behind the police station. How cool was that? She was attractive, with straight dark hair that fell to her shoulders, and a direct, no-shit gaze. Her arms across her chest, white shirt, black slacks, badge on her belt. Standing a little off to one side was a guy in a dark suit. David Gould. Since Nightingale was in a public place, he allowed himself only a slight smile. The detective's name was one he recognized. He remembered every agent and cop who'd pursued him and failed. And it didn't hurt that Gould was so handsome, Nightingale got hard just looking at him. The photo of the 2 detectives was like some movie poster or a promo for one of those stupid TV shows that was so popular. But this wasn't fiction. In real life, what came first? The killer or the kill? Were people born to it? Or was it like a drug? One taste, and if you had an addictive personality, you were hooked. He'd read about that kind of instant addiction, and he'd damn well read about other killers. Everything he could get his hands on. He devoured profiler books, and he knew how to avoid the stereotypes. So with each move, he became a different person, a different profile for each city. He didn't discriminate. That helped. Sure, he had favorite victims. Who didn't? His taste was for 20-something, dark-haired males, younger versions of David Gould. But Nightingale was also what profilers like to call an opportunistic killer. Those were harder to catch. And in order to play against type, he sometimes went for females. They weren't his drug of choice. Females were a little like smoking pot or drinking when you really wanted to mainline something awesome. But that was okay. He was all about keeping things positive. And the great thing about his addiction, other than basic expenses like rope and duct tape and plastic and whatever his chosen persona needed, it cost nothing. Free. Not many addictions were free.